In this video, we're going to go over what happens at the final hearing in an adoption proceeding. This is sometimes called a depositional hearing or a final hearing. So you've already filed your petition and the court has set the final hearing. This is going to be a very exciting day for you, but you're nervous. You don't really know what's going to happen at this final hearing. And I'm going to go over with you exactly what's going to happen at this final hearing and what you need to prepare to do. Because if you're not prepared, the problem may be is that we have to get the case set back, have to continue the case, or the court may not be able to put that final order in for you that day. And so the things that's going to happen is, first, the judge is going to look at the file. He'll have a file in front of him and go through it. And the first thing, he's going to make sure that the child has been with the adoptive parents for 60 days. So that's a little bit self-explanatory. And next, he's going to look at the file and make sure that all necessary consents, relinquishments, waivers, or terminations have been obtained and filed with the court. So depending on whether it was expressly signed, whether you have implied consent, which we talk about that in some of my other videos about how to get implied consent, or if you've got termination, if you've terminated the parent's rights in juvenile court, that has to be in the file for the judge at that time. And so you've got to make sure that when you file the adoption, that's in the file for the judge at that final hearing. Next is the court has to make sure that notice of the adoption has been sent out to all the parties, which notice is required. So generally when we file a consent adoption, we don't give notice to everybody because they file a waiver of notice. But if they didn't file a waiver of notice, you've got to have a form to give to the probate judge for them to mail to the parents to give them notice in case they want to object and give their reasons for why the adoption hasn't gone through. So the next is if there's been a contest, all the contests must have been resolved in favor of the petitioner. So what is a contest? A contest would be something like if there's a contest whether there's implied consent, or the court may send it to juvenile court for termination. That has to be complete before the final hearing date, or it's not ripe or ready to go forward with the final adoption. Next, the court has to be satisfied that each petitioner, adoptive parent, is suitable to parent the child and wants to establish a parent-child relationship with the adoptee. And so generally when I'm doing an adoption, I'll go through the petition, which is just sort of the legalese, the law that the court needs to hear. What's your name, date of birth, what's the child's date of birth, how long has the child been with you, that sort of stuff. But then to add a little people element to it, we'll go through, tell me about what you like to do together, tell me what the child likes, things like that. And tell me about your job, things like that, to show the court that you are suitable to establish this parent-child relationship. And finally is that the best interests of the adoptee are being served. And some of those questions that we ask about suitableness is generally going to be served with this same thing of best interest of the adoptee. So if the court is satisfied that all of those things are completed, then at that point, the court will issue a final decree of adoption. What I'll normally do is I will already have that final decree of adoption ready before we even go into court, so that all the court has to do is review it, sign, done. So that way we don't have to wait 3 or 4 days or a few weeks for the court to get caught back up and draw that up themselves. You've already got it, they review, sign, that way we can get it done today.